Hi, this is Rabbi Orlofsky, and welcome to the Rabbi Orlofsky Show and the special Rabbi Orlofsky Pesach program, where we provide you with extra material for your Pesach preparation needs. And whether it is your pre-Pesach packing or your pre-Pesach scrubbing or cleaning or organizing or sitting on the couch forlorn, feeling sorry for yourself, I'm here to share that with you. Anyway, this is episode 27 of the Rabbi Orlofsky Show, and it's number 2 of our special Pesach program podcast, a Pesach preparation podcast for the pre-Pesach. And it's a pleasure to be able to have the possibility of having you participate. Anyway, so we spoke last time about Pesach cleaning. We tried to give a context to it a little bit, that it's part of our avoda, where we're spending the time that, you know, Pesach is not meant just to be sitting around doing nothing. It's supposed to have a certain, the way we left Egypt with that chipazon, with that bahala, with that kind of sense of confusion and panic. That's how it's supposed to be. I have to tell you that for your Pesach preparation, this happens to be the best possible year, I think. Next year, 2 years from now will also be good. But this year is one of the best because the first Seder is Friday night. 2 years, the Seder will be on Motzi Shabbos on Saturday night. So you really can't do anything on Erev Pesach. You have to finish both of your meals by 9:30 in the morning, eating a little pita and getting rid of the crumbs and getting yourself ready. But we'll talk about that if we're still doing this in 2 years. But that's the idea. The idea is you have a full extra week from the Shabbos HaGadol, because this is always the tricky thing. If the first Seder comes out, Monday, Sunday, Monday, anywhere, Tuesday, anywhere at the beginning of the week, so you have to make Shabbos and then go into there. So what do? You look for somebody who's going away for Pesach and get them to invite you over for Shabbos HaGadol. It's the least they can do. Yeah, is daiti. There's a Israeli neighbor I have who always goes away for Pesach, and he takes pity on different families and invites them over for Shabbos HaGadol. So one year, he invited us. So I said, I'd be delighted. And he said, oh, okay. Anyway, Friday night, we're in shul. I wish him good Shabbos. He starts to leave. So I said to him, what time are we supposed to eat? He goes, you're coming? So I said, yeah. He goes, you said you were already invited. I said, no, I said I'd be delighted. Yeah, it's not only the listeners of this podcast who think that I encourage hoarding when I say think twice before you throw something away. So they put things together with plenty of food. It wasn't a problem, but there was a moment of shock that all of us experienced. But this is Friday night, which means you can have Shabbos, and then you still have a whole week. So here's the plan, and it's a little late now. I really should have done this in the first podcast at the beginning. If you're playing catch up now, right? First thing is you have to be organized. Make a list of everything that has to be done. If you have another freezer, if you have another fridge, if you have closets, this, whatever you're going to do. Now, this doesn't apply to America. I don't think. It definitely applies here in Eretz Yisrael. If you wait till the week before Pesach to do your main shopping, there will be many items missing. You have to do the shopping the week before. Now, anticipate. If you are going to do shopping the week before, obviously don't go out for the refrigerated items, but for the frozen things and for your groceries, the first thing you have to do is do your pantry and do your freezer. Make sure you clean it well and you line it and you have it all ready, and then you can do your shopping. If you do your shopping earlier, you will save yourself a lot of grief. Now, I say this as an Eretz because the year that I went down to Orlando, give me just a moment. Anyway, I went down, my mother, over Shalom, wanted to go down to Orlando for Pesach. Nobody wanted to take her. It was her last Pesach. We went down and we did shopping in New York, and they drive a van down. And one of the stores that we did not shop in, the van broke down and everyone's food spoiled. But that didn't happen for us, Baruch Hashem. I mean, bought a lot of stuff. Other stuff we drove down in a van. We were all stooped into this van, and we pushed, we built all luggage around people. If you had to leave, forget about it. Just stay where you are, sleep in the van. And we drove down to Orlando, and when we got there, for some of the things, we went out to Costco. And, anyway, we ran out of stuff. So we went to the local Winn-Dixie. They had everything. They had Chav Yisrael. They had frozen food. They had prepared food. They had whatever you could want, they had over there in that Winn-Dixie. And it had been such a genius. I sat there and schlepped everything down from New York. Yeah. My brother Gedalia is going down to Orlando this Pesach, and bringing his family down. They rented 2 houses, a lot of rooms. Everybody should be comfortable. And my sister-in-law Miriel and two of my nieces are going to go a couple of days earlier and buy everything. And my niece Tova Khan, who lives in Miami, and I just hosted me and some of my children when we were down in Miami. But so she's arranging for the food to come from Boca. And here's the thing, you can go to Target or Costco, one of these places, and you can order it and they'll deliver it right to your house. You don't have to run through the thing and wait online to do this. All these things could be taken care of. So, I learned a lot from the experience, and I said, if I had to do it over again, I would stay home. But other people are doing it much, much smarter. My son went with some friends down to Orlando last year, and everything was smooth as could be. They learned from my mistakes. We may be midgets, but we sit on the shoulders of giants. So get your shopping done, and make sure you schedule that in. So therefore, obviously your pantry and obviously your freezer and things like that have to be done so that when you do your shopping, you can put it away someplace. If you're like me and you order your matzahs come beforehand, where are you going to put your matzahs so that they don't get crushed or absorb chametz radiation? Not everyone believes in chametz radiation, but my wife does. If there's chametz in the house, then Pesach. That's why I can't take my bottles of wine from my cabinet and wipe them down and use them again, because they've absorbed the chametz from the cabinet. I have to buy new bottles of wine for Pesach. So make sure your matzahs don't get chametz radiation. And if you're going to put it on top of the break front, make sure that it's cleaned off over there. You clean that off if you're going to put it up there. And make sure also that the brake front doesn't curve or it'll slide right off and break. And that's sure going to be bad. Because to try to find those matzahs that came out just, in one piece. Anyway, so you have to anticipate that. Now, here's my advice. Work zones. Because people have to live. You have to continue living. You can't shut down your house while you're doing things. So I say, work the periphery, the back bedrooms, the basement, the upstairs, if you have those things. Yeah, the outside, whatever it is. Get everything done so that by Shabbos, you have only the kitchen and the living room, dining room. That's the idea. You can make Shabbos or you can buy Shabbos and you can eat like a mensch, there's no problem. And then after Shabbos, you clean up everything from Shabbos and you put everything away and then you start working. Living room, dining room, who's doing the couches, who's doing the table. If you're just closing up the break front, you really don't have to clean out the break front. Who's getting everything? Get everything clean so that the living room and dining room is done. Now you get into the kitchen. And we have a little lobby outside of our apartment. So we usually set up a table with whatever food that's going to be eaten. And the meals now, during the beginning of that week, take place outside there. I have to admit that we do tend to buy a lot of takeout during that time. It's not the healthiest week, but at least we're keeping the spread of chametz out. And we work. Now, beforehand, sof ma'aseh machshav tchila, the end, any action has to start by thinking through. It's amazing how people don't think things through. I was once at a Shabbaton, it was just before Charoses, at the end of Shabbos, and a guy says to me, this was a really successful Shabbaton, the organizer. I said, really, why? He says, well, we brought a lot of people together and they all had a good time. So I said, was the purpose of the Shabbaton to bring a lot of people together and give them a good time? He thinks and says, well, what should be the purpose of a Shabbaton? And I said, Shalosh is the wrong time to ask that question. That's what you ask when you first start planning. So the more you plan out what you're going to do, the better. And this is specifically about cabinets. Which cabinets do you need? Be realistic. It's too late, obviously, for this Pesach, but I will tell you one of the things that I did that changed my life. Two things that I did. One is I could never get my oven and stovetop clean to my satisfaction, and I could never cover it to my satisfaction. And I was always unhappy. One time I hired people to clean my oven. I paid them for about 6 hours of work. And when they were done, I had to clean the oven. And even then I wasn't so happy. But, so I made a cheshbon. When I paid these guys in 10 years, I could buy myself a new oven. And that's what I did. I bought myself a separate Pesach oven. And I used to keep it in the back of the machzan. And then I would take my chametz sticker oven, which has been through a lot. It goes through a lot in this house. And I wheel it out, and I bring in my fresh Pesach oven, plug it in, and givaldik. The only thing is that I kept in the back of the machzan, of the storeroom, so I have to empty it all out to bring the oven in. Then I have to put everything back in, and then I have to take everything out again to put it back, and then put everything back in. It was an ordeal. So when I redid my kitchen years ago, I'm going to lose a certain amount of room, but I built myself a Pesach cabinet, a big Pesach cabinet that fits the oven, and I've got shelves above it with all of my Pesach kalim, all my pots, all my pans, all my dishes, all my glasses. Everything is shoved, my Pesach broom, my Pesach sponger, stick, my Pesach bucket. Everything goes, my Pesach tablecloths, my Pesach dish towels, everything goes into that cabinet. We close it up, and that's it. And then what I do is when we finish the kitchen, open it up, I take out the oven, I take shelves, I put in more shelves where the oven was, I rearrange all my things, and I'm able to keep most of the stuff there. So I clean up my pantry, and I have most of my food there, got my Pesach cabinet, and there's a few other cabinets that I do. I do the silverware drawers, a few other things, and that's it. We used to turn our whole house upside down. We would take out all the chametz sticker dishes and carry them off to the machzan and clean and cover everything and put it in for a week. It was crazy. So think carefully, which cabinets do I have to use on Pesach? And otherwise, if you have some little kids around, children or grandchildren, depending on your age group, put them to work making chametz signs. If they're really young, then just print it out with an outline that says chametz and let them color it in. Keep them busy for at least 3 to 4 minutes. Yeah. And then you can hang them up on the cabinets you're not using. But try to keep the amount of cabinets that you're cleaning out and using to a minimum. Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And that's what we're trying to minimize. Right? Okay, so we have, in my opinion, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday to do the living room, to do the dining room, to do the refrigerator or refrigerators, to do your oven, your stovetop, get everything done. Yeah. And then Wednesday, we have stainless steel sinks. We kasher the sinks. We kasher them. We cover them anyway because we're fanatics. And we have granite counters. And we kasher all of them. And then we cover them. Because it just wouldn't be Pesach if we weren't running around the kitchen with boiling hot water and a hot rock with pliers, going over all the counters and making a flood everywhere so that it fills in all those cabinets that we didn't bother cleaning out. Anyway, so it just wouldn't be Pesach. But it also helps to do another sponger, because even though we did a sponger the night before, and I'm talking about, I'm an old sick man, but I'm down on my hands and knees, scrubbing off everything there, bleach. One year I had a hole in my finger. It didn't bleed or anything. It was like it burnt straight. There's some special thing about steel wool and bleach, like combination on your hands, that just, gives it that certain ruggedness that you just can't get when you're a speaker. Anyway, so you leave yourself that time. If you do this right, unless because you're just by yourself and you're elderly, like with a walker. But I'm assuming that you got a couple of people working with you. The living room, dining room shouldn't take more than a day. You can do the kitchen in 2 days, and you're done. Wednesday, we would kash everything. We would cover, and then you can start cooking already. And it's Wednesday. Thursday's bedikas chametz, and then you go in already. Erev Shabbos, getting ready for the Seder. It makes such a difference, makes such a change. Think beforehand. Okay, on the subject of planning, and people, I don't know why people don't like to plan. All right. Make your menus now, not Erev Pesach, so that after you already did your shopping and you put everything away and everything all set up, you suddenly realize, oh, I bought livers and I don't have any way to grind them up. I just realized I don't have a grinder. Now I got to run out and try to buy things. Or I suddenly realized my menu I didn't take into account. I need this, I need that. Sit down and make a menu. And I mean, Shabbos, Friday lunch. People are starving Erev Shabbos. You can't, Erev Shabbos, Erev Yontif. You can't have chametz, you can't have matzah. What are you going to eat? What are you going to do? I've gone away to hotels. We ate guns fine. Don't worry about that. But people are hungry. The year we were in Orlando, it was also a Friday night. And so I made a Pesach cholent, and everybody ate it on Friday. It was a nice, hot meat and potato cholent over there. So everyone just took a bowl, just a bowl. So most of the cholent went the way of all things. But make your menu. Friday lunch. What do we have? In fact, when I do it, I figure out also bedikas chametz night, because if you're buying takeout, okay. But if you're not, so you're going to make a supper already. Pesach supper. What are you making? Yeah. And then what are you serving at the Seder? And go down the list with everything. What do I need for the kaira? What do I need for the Seder plate? What do I need? Get everything down, etc., etc. Yeah. Okay. And then what are we doing Shabbos lunch? Which has a tendency to start late, because if your Seder finish late, then people have a tendency to start this late as well. Yeah. But then you have Shabbos lunch. And Motzi Shabbos is usually, if you eat gebrachs, it's like matzah and butter, matzah brai, whatever it is. If you don't eat gebrachs, then it's potatoes. Anyway, plan out Chol Hamoed. I'm planning out Chol Hamoed. What am I doing for the suppers? I don't know if you have to plan out the lunches, but plan out the suppers. What are you going to do? We have certain things that we always like to do. This is not one of my mother's recipes. This is one of our Pesach recipes. We always make pan-fried hamburgers. That's because some people don't use an oven. That's why some of the Pesach treats tend to be on the stovetop. So instead of grilling it, now I know some people buy themselves like a little grill, and they actually make barbecue and stuff like that. But what we do is one night, where it's basically you cut up onions and you fry them up a little bit, and then you make your patties, chopped meat, and you have a little garlic powder there, assuming you use garlic. If you don't use garlic, then I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, so you make them into little patties, and you cook them up with the onions, and then you have to, clean them out and replace the onions. It is such a treat, such a treat. I would do this towards the end of Chol Moed because people are going to be sick for the next 2 weeks from all the fat. But it's a treat. There's a lot of Pesach treats that people want to schedule it in so you know what you need. Be realistic. I don't do this. I just put in my matzah order, and we all sit around every year and say, how much did we order last year? Because last year was very good. I didn't write it down. I never do. You should have a list. How much matzah did I order last year? Was that enough or too little? How much potato starch did I buy? Was it enough or was it too little? They have a tendency before Pesach to sell like potatoes and onions and carrots in bulk. I can't fit it all into the refrigerator, and they end up going bad. And it's not like when I first moved to Israel 30 years ago, came Chol Moed, the whole place closed down. Today everything's open on Chol Moed. If you run out and get another bag of carrots or buy some more potatoes, don't go crazy. Because nobody wants matzah after Pesach. People aren't looking for more matzah, more things. In fact, here's a little irony. We only use chabur matzahs. I use chabur matzahs. Why? Because that's what I do. I use chabur matzahs. Anyway, so we like to make farfel. Again, those of you people who don't eat gebrachs, you could just skip over this part. But we would make farfel. My son-in-law is one of the people who's very good farfel maker. You have to take the matzah and you have to crush it up into pieces, and then you cook it and the whole thing, and you serve this as like a side dish for like meatballs and things like that. It's always a treat. Anyway, one year we didn't have enough matzah. Last year we didn't have enough matzah, so we didn't make the matzah farfel. So I went out and bought 2 of the boxes. It was badats, matzahs. I mean, that wasn't not kosher, of matzah farfel. And we were waiting for people to make the matzah farfel. And I just found the 2 boxes now. So I was going through the cabinet. So it's about a year later. And nobody ever made the matzah because nobody wants the matzah afterwards. Yeah. People love matzah bread. People love matzah lasagna. But after Pesach, people are not so interested. Yeah. Unless, again, you're not gebrach. My son married a girl from a Hasidic family, the Langses. And he says, they put down a plastic and they eat all their matzah, they brush themselves off, they take off the plastic, and that's it. There's no more matzah. That's real intense. Yeah, nothing but the greatest respect. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like that if I had to give up my matzah brai and my knedlach, my matzah balls, and my matzah lasagna, I probably would just give up Judaism altogether. What's the point? Why should I be Jewish? Anyway, I'm digressing. But let's keep our focus. I got into trouble once when I used to teach in seminary because I told a story about this with Moshe Feinstein, who kept inviting this person over his house for Pesach, for a Suda, and the guy kept making excuses why he's not going to come. So finally, Moshe says, "Is it because we eat gebrachs?" So he says, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I can accommodate you." He says, "Yeah." He says, "Sure, I'll get 2 more people and we'll be mater neder." Now, I said I was going to translate things. Gebrachs, for those of you not familiar with this, gebrachs are a custom where nobody will let any liquid touch matzah. That's the idea. So they will not have matzah balls, they will not have matzah brai, they will not have matzah and spreads. And people are real intense about this. And so Moshe Feinstein, who was a great rabbi from the last generation, he says, the problem is because you don't eat gebrachs. No problem. I'll get me and 2 more rabbis, and we'll remove the vow that you're not eating gebrachs. Then you could have gebrachs, and everything will be fine. So I told this story over. Anyway, one of the teachers is of Hasidic background, and called me on the carpet for attacking other people's customs. So So I'm not trying to cast aspersions, but plan out what it is you're going to have. So make sure you figure out how much matzah, what you need. Don't go crazy. Every year we do this for our charoses. Here's my recipe for our charoses. Apples. We grate them on a grater, and it always has just, you're supposed to add a little red wine for the dam, for the blood, but we put actual blood in because we get down to the grater for the greater good. Anyway, so apples, and we chop walnuts. And I can't explain to you why this is, but they sell chopped walnuts, but I can't use that. I have to take actual walnuts and chop them up. That's how we did it in my house. And that's basically it. And then you add some wine and some cinnamon and ginger. And every year from Pesach, I buy a ginger, and we sprinkle some of it into the charoses, and that's about it. It sits in the cabinet for a year, and then we throw it away, and we buy a new one every single year. So you got to be realistic. If it's something that you don't think you're going to use, let's face it, there's not a big demand for potato starch after Pesach. So some people use it instead of cornstarch. They use it for certain things to thicken gravies and things. But be realistic. Try to keep a cheshbon. Try to keep an account every year of how much of these things you use. So plan out your meals, plan out your menus, plan out your shopping, etc. And I'm going to throw in one other thing, and we'll talk about this a different time. But think about what you're going to do on Chol Hamoed, because suddenly Chol Hamoed pops up. And what we usually do Chol Hamoed, and we'll talk about this, we'll have a whole one just for Chol Hamoed, but what we usually do for Chol Hamoed is I go to davening. Slowly people wake up. They all make either eggs or matzah brai, and that's most of the morning. And then we discuss what we're going to do with the day. Should we go here? Should we go here? Should we do this? Should we do this? And we go back and forth until we decide it's time for lunch. And then we eat lunch, and then we say, now it's too late, it doesn't pay to go anywhere. You'll be surprised how many days you could use the same exact program. So there was one year when I programmed my Pesach, and it was a much better Pesach. We'll talk about some of those ideas. But, you have to be able to anticipate that a little bit. So that's the idea. The idea is it's doable. I want to empower you. You can do this. There's no reason to freak out. There's no reason to get upset. You can handle this with ease. Just have a plan. And if you stick to the plan, remember what I'm telling you, do everything except for the kitchen and the living room, dining room this week. Then have your Shabbos, and don't cook too much. Don't go crazy. Or buy takeout. Enough what you need. And then, after that, do the living room, dining room. Shouldn't take you more than a day. 2 days to the kitchen. Change over. If you're koshering everything, kasher everything. Call it a day. It should make your Pesach preparation that much easier. And hopefully we'll be fine. That's about it. If you want to find out more about the show in general, go to RabbiOrlofsky.com/podcast. If you want more information on this particular show, it's RabbiOrlofsky.com/podcast/27. If you want to find out about upcoming events, RabbiOrlofsky.com/events. If you want to contact me, it's RabbiOrlofsky.com/contact. If you'd like to sponsor an episode, go to RabbiOrlofsky.com/podcast and click on the sponsor an episode. I'm David Orlofsky, and this is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.